You want to see the scariest club in the world? This is what used to be called a 1-iron. Ali Travino was once quoted as saying, "Only God can hit a 1-iron." Today we're going to talk about driving irons. A driving iron is essentially a more forgiving long iron. You remember the old 1 and 2 irons? This is an old Wilson. I played this in college at some point. It scares the hell out of me. It's better known as a butter knife. That is not what these new things are. This is your new version of the old long irons. In general, driving irons are more similar to irons than they are hybrids and fairway woods. They definitely tend to go a little bit lower, but the idea of these things is to make more forgiving long irons. So it's kind of a mixed set thing. So if you struggle with a 4-iron or a 5-iron, maybe a driving iron makes some sense, but they're a lot more forgiving than their counterparts in irons. Why would you want a driving iron versus a hybrid? And that's a really good question. Driving irons hit the ball about the same distance as hybrids, but generally lower. Hybrids tend to go high, spin more, and are better out of the rough. Driving irons are fantastic off the tee for more low penetrating ball flight. So if you look at the British Open, for instance, there's a lot of guys using these things. Whereas you're playing in softer, no wind conditions, there's a lot more hybrids in the bag. It's one of the few clubs in the bag I think you should switch back and forth. Maybe have a driving iron and a hybrid, and figuring out, based on course conditions and wind, which one you want to play. So Titleist just came out with 2 models, the new driving irons they have. So there is the U510, which is the larger version, more forgiving. You can see the sole's relatively wide, pretty easy to hit, almost like a mini hybrid to some extent. And then they've got the more player version, which is the less handicapped one, the U500. A much smaller profile, you can actually see the difference. They've also used tungsten weights on the heel and toe, make them more forgiving. These are hollow, like most of them are these days. Cavity back clubs obviously are more forgiving. Hollow clubs do the same thing. In general, driving irons go about the same distance as the equivalent hybrid, typically similar shafts too. A lot of people actually put hybrid shafts in the driving irons. Personally, I like driving irons a lot. Long irons are obviously the hardest thing to hit. There's not even many tour players that still play a 3-iron. But in my bag, for instance, I have a 4-iron that's a driving iron and a 2-iron that's a driving iron. And then my 5-iron is actually the first part of my set. Can I hit a 4-iron? Yes. Is the driving iron more forgiving, go higher and straighter and easier to hit? Absolutely. So essentially what you're doing is trying to mix the bag. You're making those long irons, which are difficult to hit, easier to hit. Having a hybrid that goes high and a driving iron that goes lower are 2 things you might want to swap in and out of your bag. And depending on the course conditions, play the one that suits those conditions. But that depends on fitting to some extent. But there are definitely options out there, and you should get fitted and try to figure out which one works best for you. Time to go play golf, Shag.